We are transmitting live from San Diego, California, from the KPBS studios located in San Diego State University. We welcome our participants who are spread out among 55 cities within the Republic of Mexico, Honduras, Ecuador, Paraguay, Argentina, and other Latin American countries. We welcome to the Total Quality Management. This is the first of a series of interactive video conferences having to do with management in the 21st century, which have been produced by the International Training Center in San Diego State University. This is the first time in which the university offers a certification for participation to those who attend the 6 video conferences of this series. All those interested will be able to obtain more information from these events organizers. This program was designed in order to illustrate the practical use of the modern means of communication, since it makes use of a mixture of live broadcasting techniques and recording in order to enhance both quality and content. Furthermore, it demonstrates the educational advancement and professional development for international publics. You may receive this program either in English or through simultaneous interpretation into Spanish, depending on the channel you choose. In the Spanish channel, you will be listening to the voices of various translators. You may ask questions directly to the studio by phone or fax during the demonstration question and answer sessions, which are incorporated in the video conference program. We will try to fit in as many participants who wish to ask questions. We merely ask that you be brief and concise in your questions. My name is Armando Osorio. I will be your moderator during this conference. It is a pleasure to introduce the experts to you, Mr. George Wolf and Mr. Tom Hinton. Mr. Wolf is the president of GWA, a management consulting company which specializes in improving both quality and productivity. Among his consulting clients, he has the following clients: Ingeniería, Ingersoll, Heilsel, Baxter, Healthcare, and Nissan. In addition, he is an associate professor in the College of Management in Cal State University, Fullerton. Mr. Hinton is president of the Customer Relations Institute, a company dedicated to consulting and training in the customer service, total quality, and organizational redesign. He is the author of the book, The Spirit of Service, and co-author of the book, Championing Total Quality, What to Do on Monday Morning. How are you? In which way do you believe that the free trade agreement will affect management within the Latin American organizations?
I think once the political debate has settled in the United States and Mexico, I think businesses on both sides of the border will see numerous benefits from NAFTA. I'm optimistic that NAFTA is good for both countries, and it will offer many opportunities for those businesses that are prepared to take advantage of them. For example, in many ways, NAFTA reminds me of the Chinese symbol that represents both danger and opportunity, depending on which way you're going to use the symbol in the language. I say this for 2 reasons. First, NAFTA will reduce tariffs and create an even playing field for companies to do business, more business, across both borders. Anytime a business is free to conduct its commerce without the threat of government interference or regulations, I consider this to be a very positive situation. Secondly, NAFTA will stimulate more trade on a global basis. This will encourage companies in Mexico and the United States to become more competitive, improve their quality and customer service, and be more responsive to the needs of their customers. I think the challenge, Armando, is for businesses on both sides of the border to focus on their quality and service, because ultimately quality and service are the twin engines that drive a successful business, regardless of what business or industry you're in. So yes, I believe NAFTA offers both opportunity for those companies that are prepared to improve their performance and danger for those companies that are tied to the status quo and unwilling to change.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Mr. Wolf, could you share with some of the experiences that you have lived while teaching total quality management?
Yes, Armando. We've been teaching on-site in many companies, and what we attempt to do is to really change the culture of a company within a 6-month period. Therefore, it has to be a very accelerated program. What we're talking about is we go into companies with different management styles. And really what we're trying to do is to have the managements of companies really recognize the fact that they have to fundamentally change the way they do business to operate in a global environment. Really, as far as what management is going to be doing, is they have to provide the direction of where they want their companies to be in a global environment in the next 2 years. They have to mobilize all the people in the company toward that direction. There really has to be a unity, a vision statement on the part of companies in order to do this. Even though we operate in very diverse management groups in companies, really, I have never seen any difficulty in companies assimilating this change.
Mr. Hinton, could you tell us what motivated you to write your new book with Winnie Schaefer?
Yes, when my co-author Winnie Schaefer of Motorola and I decided to write Customer-Focused Quality, What to Do on Monday Morning, it was for 2 reasons, Armando. First, we realized that most managers and executives in a company understood the importance of quality and customer service. They understood the concepts, but frankly, they were frustrated by how to implement quality processes on a daily basis in their organizations. In other words, they believed in being customer-focused and quality-driven, but how did they achieve it on a daily basis? So that was the first reason that we wrote the book. The second reason that we wrote the book was we wanted to deal with the lack of commitment among senior executives to a quality process in their company. We found too many cases where executives made speeches, they wore the buttons on their lapels, and they hung the huge banners in the company cafeteria proclaiming the importance of quality and customer service. But after the balloons were popped and the excitement wore off, nobody in a leadership position continued to champion quality. And so the quality effort died a slow, quiet death, and nothing changed in the company. Winnie Schaefer and I believe strongly that in order for quality to take root in the company, it must be championed by senior leadership in the company. They must make a total commitment to quality and champion that quality process throughout their company. Otherwise, it becomes slogan and lip service, and that just won't work. And so I guess we felt that quality is a journey that once you begin, it never ends. Our book was written to help executives start the journey and stay the course.
We leave you with Mr. Wolf, who we asked start his presentation.
What was that? This presentation is about change. It's about change which affects us directly and individually. It's about change in the workplace, how we organize work, how we do work, and our new responsibilities. Before we go into these changes, let's first discuss what is causing this change. In the past 20 years, we have seen great improvements in our technologies. Television, the advance of telecommunications, and satellite transmission. These technologies have dramatically affected our societies, our understanding, and the desires of people within our respective societies. Technology is the major factor that drives change. What we do in one country can now be transmitted to another in minutes. Our understanding of other cultures has improved as a result of satellite transmission. Our ability to serve markets from afar has been enhanced with the use of improved communications, computerization, and transportation vehicles. The trade volume between countries has grown dramatically and is expected to grow by over $200 billion by the year 2000. Average worldwide tariffs on manufacturing goods have been reduced from 45% to 5% since 1948. The new GATT treaty will reduce remaining tariffs by 30%. Yes, it's becoming a seamless world. The borders are eroding. Many leading-edge companies in the United States began formal programs in the early 80s to fundamentally change the way they did business in order to more effectively compete in this new global marketplace. Today, we will discuss some of the advanced concepts which have evolved. We will also discuss some of the more effective TQM implementation techniques that are currently in use by these leading-edge companies. The fundamental changes that must take place in a company undergoing the TQM transition include the attitudes of employees, how performance is measured, developing a plant environment that supports change, changing the responsibilities of employees, establishing reward and recognition systems, and fostering the overall desire for perfection throughout the entire organization. The question, however, is how do you change the attitudes of a company? Consider the size of this challenge. In the U.S., approximately 500,000 companies will be required to go through this transition. And then, how much time do we have to effect this change? TQM affects companies that produce products as well as companies that provide services. Manufacturing companies are beginning to strongly embrace TQM processes. However, the majority, 2 out of 3 jobs in the United States, currently involve services. The productivity level in the service industry is lagging behind that of manufacturing companies. Much work remains to be done in this area. What does TQM mean? Basically, TQM is a management philosophy and operating methodology. It involves a cultural change in a company. It's a model for continuously improving processes by eliminating waste. It's conveyed by top management actions. The TQM process results in a change of individual attitudes, which result in behavioral changes, changes in how we do business on a day-to-day basis. TQM is a total commitment by management to employ the techniques of quality throughout all organizational levels. TQM is a process, not a project. It's not something that is going to be completed 6 months from now or a year from now. With the TQM process, you're starting on a trail that will never end. Some of the characteristics of a TQM company include commitment to continuous improvement, elimination of activities that add no value, focus on prevention rather than on inspection. Teamwork is the norm. Everybody is involved. Training programs support workforce development. Different departments cooperate to solve problems. Now, what are management's responsibilities for implementing TQM? Management must show full commitment to a total company program. We are not talking about implementing TQM only in the manufacturing departments or only in the engineering department. TQM must be a total company program which affects all the functions of the organization. We're talking about aligning all areas of the company to a common mission which describes where we expect the company to be in a few years. Management is responsible for training all stakeholders in TQM. Under the stakeholder concept, employees are no longer seen as merely wage earners. They accept ownership of a process and are responsible for the quality of their process. Suppliers are stakeholders in a company. Owners are also stakeholders in a company. Recognize that the TQM process is a transitional process for a company. It requires patience and persistence. Why do companies initiate TQM? The reasons fall into three categories. Survival. We've all heard about the Xerox and the Cadillac stories. Those companies were slow to change, and hence they were going to go out of business. Companies also initiate TQM for profit improvements. Motorola, Federal Express, General Electric, and others recognized that they could enhance their profits significantly by taking the waste out of their existing processes. Companies participating in TQM initiatives are now expecting their suppliers, in turn, to be involved with TQM. This, in effect, becomes a customer-driven requirement. If you're going to do business with me, you must be identified as a TQM company. Perhaps even be certified in TQM or some other quality initiative, such as ISO 9000. Quality has many meanings. Let's take a look at the definitions given by the gurus of the quality field. Dr. Deming's definition of quality is uniformly meeting or exceeding customer expectations. In summary, this means that our company is committed to delighting our customers. TQM is expected from all organizational levels where process control is required. As a result, it affects engineering, the finance department, the marketing department, the materials department, etc. All departments have to understand what TQM means and the principles of TQM. We remove barriers between departments with the TQM process. These barriers affect all the different functions of a company. It requires a rollout plan for implementation. The 1990s TQM principles are to uniformly produce defect-free products and services every time. Total perfection is our goal. By doing this, we will improve quality, reduce costs, increase our profits, and delight our customers. Other 1990s principles deal with who is responsible for quality and when quality is determined. What are the weaknesses of the inspection approach we've used for so long? Inspection is done after the fact. You aren't going to find all the defects. Some bad parts will reach customers. Inspectors are irritating to the workers who are actually doing the job. Inspection is highly reactive. It's not proactive. Inspection doesn't improve processes. It adds cost. To effect these kinds of changes, management must redirect the company to these new 1990 principles. It must change the existing company culture. They have to provide the workforce the tools needed for improving and controlling processes. We're talking about re-engineering and mistake-proofing processes. This involves the ability to analyze a process, to flowchart it, to see what we can do to simplify the process, to make it more effective. Management provides the statistical process control tools, SPC, to ensure that the process uniformly produces defect-free products. SPC gives the operators the tools to control their processes. Management provides additional tools for optimal problem solving by training employees to use fishbone diagrams, Pareto analyses, flowcharts, and process capability studies. These tools are provided through on-site training programs. Once employees are trained, they frequently form into teams and are given the authority, empowered, to proceed with improving the processes of the company. This requires a change in the traditional way of thinking about the worker. This in turn requires a change in company culture. Can we graphically illustrate the transition process to a new company culture? As a beginning step, we have to achieve an understanding in the company of the philosophies of TQM, just-in-time, and statistical process control. We begin to understand the new definitions of waste, the problems with excessive inventory, how excessive material handling causes waste, and the effect of long-duration setups. Then we achieve an understanding of the techniques being used by global competitors to eliminate this waste, how to implement a setup time reduction program, how to reduce excessive material handling. Using team techniques, we apply these quality techniques to the various processes of our company as the training program unfolds. We recognize the people who help us achieve breakthroughs as examples of the kind of behavior we want to see throughout the company in the future. When these desired behaviors become habit and predominate in the company, we will have achieved the cultural change desired. As we have stated before, this requires patience and persistence. The basic TQM philosophies mentioned in the previous graphic are shown in this illustration. The basic TQM techniques, which have to be understood by those implementing the TQM process, are how to establish and manage the TQM process through a steering committee, and how to solve problems in an optimal manner through the use of teams. We're going to have to develop communication and leadership skills to facilitate the TQM implementation. We must have a background in statistical process controls to ensure that our processes will uniformly deliver what is desired. We must understand the just-in-time methodology, which consists of 12 to 15 different kinds of elements. As some of you may know from the International Training Center's Just-in-Time program presented this last year, these elements include supplier management, transport innovations, setup reduction, Kanban, etc. With computers continuing to advance at a very rapid rate, we must be well aware of some of the new advances in computer-integrated manufacturing. With adoption by over 90 countries of the International Standards Organization's ISO 9000 quality standards, we have to be knowledgeable of what is required for compliance. Basic human needs, which have often been overlooked by our past company operating philosophies, are addressed by the TQM process. These are shown on this graphic. They account for some of the very active support, particularly by people on the shop floor of the TQM process. Many of you know about Dr. Edwards Deming, who recently passed on. Some of us may think that he was primarily a statistician who taught techniques in statistical process control. Deming was as much interested in processes and management techniques as he was with mathematics. This is evidenced by his famous 14 points, some of which are shown in this illustration. For example, in number 2, in the practice of awarding business on the basis of price tag. The wording that we're looking for is awarding to suppliers on the basis of total cost. Item number 4, institute training on the job, is especially important. With the rate of technological change increasing constantly, continuous on-site training is required for our employees. In number 6, he's talking about driving out fear. He points out that fear is the greatest constraint to making change in a company. Fear of the unknown, fear of looking stupid, fear of intimidation by bosses or peers. Deming made very important contributions. All of us involved in TQM training programs should be aware of his outstanding work. As we embrace the new TQM philosophies, we have to give up some of the old attitudes that were deemed acceptable for so many years. One of these, control over people. Managers say, workers do. We have to move from this traditional managerial approach to our more participative management approach, whereby workers are empowered and enabled to improve a process. They are given the tools, the time, and the techniques required to effect these changes. We have to change our performance measurement systems to reflect 1990s customer desires. For example, instead of concentrating on the number of direct labor standard hours produced each day, we must now concentrate upon world-class performance measures. The percent of defective parts produced each day, the percent of daily shipments not meeting the customer ship date. The attitude also surfaces in implementing TQM that workers can't be mobilized. They will not accept ownership of their processes. How successful we are at getting our employees to accept ownership has much to do with the participative management style of their supervisors. Supervisors must show that they want the employee to accept ownership and are willing to work with them in improving their processes. This is a delicate situation. It is very key to the success of a TQM implementation. It takes much patience, persistence, and leadership. There are 5 major steps to effectively implementing the TQM process in your company. The first step is to begin a comprehensive training program, addressing initially the leaders of the company. The second step is to establish the organizational structure to drive the change process. Let's get the steering committee in place. Let's make sure members understand their roles and responsibilities. The third step is to provide a vision statement which aligns all employees in the company toward the goal of where the company is to be, say, a year or 2 from now. The fourth step is to quickly apply the training concepts learned by establishing and facilitating continuous improvement teams. We don't want to wait in starting this step until the training program is completed. During the training program, we want to develop skills in solving your company's problems. As the training program proceeds, we want to upgrade the people skills and the technical skills of the company team members. Outcomes expected from training are to obtain the behavioral changes required by employees in a TQM company. They will handle a wider variety of jobs and be responsible for an increasing portion of the work. People coming from the program will have an excellent understanding of what is expected. They will have the confidence and the skills for going ahead and doing it. They will need, however, the support of management because they will be operating in an entirely different fashion. They will have changed the way they do business on an individual level. Let's take a look at some of the topics covered in a TQM training program. These include training in total quality management concepts, training in the soft skills, teamwork, leadership, communication, how we can improve communication in the company, both vertical communications and horizontal. We train also in systematic methods of problem solving using teams. We then concentrate on just-in-time, JIT, techniques, and the various elements of JIT which are completely compatible with TQM. We conclude the training with SPC training. Companies often will send a person to a seminar on one of these topics, and upon his or her return, nothing happens. With a comprehensive on-site training program, we deal with the issues that come up that apply to your company. On-site training is far more effective in implementing the cultural change desired. It can be individually tailored to your company's processes, needs, and schedule.